Star Wars only. I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
Some pretty big news has just come out from Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney himself. He is also in charge of things like Lucasfilm, because that's kind of like a smaller little company under Disney. So he's the guy who sees the big picture, and he's the guy who's in charge of a lot of things. And he finally came out saying that we're not going to be having a Star Wars film every year. And he actually kind of admits his mistake here, and I love everything this guy has to say. So he's in an interview with Hollywood Reporter, and they ask him, many believe Disney should pump the brakes and not put out a Star Wars movie every year. And then Bob Iger replies with this: I made the timing decision, and as I look back, I think the mistake that I take the blame, was a little too much, too fast. You can expect some slowdown, but that doesn't mean we're not going to make films. JJ is busy making episode 9. We have creative entities, including Game of Thrones creators, Benioff and Wes, who are developing sagas of their own, which we haven't been specific about, and we are just at the point where we're going to start making decisions about what comes next after JJ, but I think we're going to be a little bit more careful about the volume and timing, and the buck stops here on that. And I love this, because he kind of says, the timing and how everything was working every year, he said that was a mistake, and it was a little too much, and he kind of, he says, I take the blame. It's stuff like that as a Star Wars fan, I appreciate. Reason being is, he's not turning around and saying, the fans don't like these movies because they're bigots, they're racist, they're sexist. He's turning around and he's saying, yeah, we screwed up, we put, my bad, I'm sorry, I put too much out there at once. And I love it, because he's right. There was the Star Wars fatigue that's setting in, where 2018 is a weird year now, because we're not getting another Star Wars film until 2019. So it's weird having that, not a year gap thing right now. We're used to having a year gap and then another Star Wars film. I like this because it can focus more on the creative stuff. It can focus more on the story and make sure everyone who's in the movie understands what's happening, and people at Disney and at Lucasfilm can agree, hey, we should come out with this movie because it looks okay. You don't want them to be too involved and have what Warner Brothers is doing to DC and screwing it all up, but you also don't want them to have complete and total free reign like Rian Johnson did, and then you get The Last Jedi. So this is kind of an interesting statement, and I really do like it. I think if this is proof that he at least is listening to the fans. Bob Iger is listening to the fans, and everyone has been saying, hey, a movie every year is not a good idea. I remember when all the news came out, and I was like, there's going to be a total of 18 Star Wars movies. I posted on Instagram, I was like, it was the Michael Scott from The Office saying no really loud when Toby came back, and people got mad at me. They're like, you're not a Star Wars fan if you don't want 9 more films and everything. It's like, no, it's just that I know what oversaturation is, and that's what they're doing. They're putting out way too much, especially episodic films. So it's kind of crazy, and I'm glad that he actually listened to us and was like, you know what? We're going to chill with that. Maybe it was a mistake doing one every year. We'll focus on J.J. Abrams, and that's it. But one thing I love it, he didn't even mention Rian Johnson. He only mentioned J.J. Abrams' Episode 9, didn't mention any spin-off films, and then he talked about the Game of Thrones creators, David Benioff and D.B. West, I believe is how you say his last name. He didn't talk anything about Rian Johnson or any other spin-off film, and Rian Johnson's got his own trilogy. That's the big one. So I think that's a little interesting. I wish they would have asked him about Rian Johnson and, what's going on with him, and we all know Rian Johnson said he's going to do his film, but it sounds like, things are going to be changing. So the whole craziness we have at Lucasfilm, where for about a few months, and we talked about this a lot on this channel, for a few months at Lucasfilm, everything was crazy. Everything was, contradicting each other. We had people say, oh, well, there was going to be a movie that was setting up, and it got canned, and then people were like, oh, that's Rian Johnson's trilogy, and Rian Johnson's like, no, I'm still doing it, and then we had rumors that Kathleen Kennedy's stepping down, but nothing's come out really about that since the rumors, and, all these rumored directors coming in, and them coming out and denying it, and, people at, Lucasfilm saying, oh, we're shutting down all the rest of the movies after Episode 9, that's the only one we're going to worry about, and then Kathleen Kennedy saying, no, we're still doing it, to now Bob Iger saying, no, we're not doing it. It's like crazy. Everyone's contradicting each other, and that's not how you want a company ran. But you're hearing this from the top of the food chain, the CEO of Disney, who was in charge of everything below him, like Marvel, like Lucasfilm, even though he chooses to kind of let Kevin Feige take care of Marvel and then Kathleen Kennedy to take care of Lucasfilm. He's stepping in here and saying, we're not going to do as much. And that's the top of the food chain. That's the guy. There's the board of directors is technically above him, but he's the figurehead. He's kind of like a Steve Jobs of Apple when Steve Jobs was still alive. And so Yeah, I think this is great news, and I think this is a good sign for Star Wars fans that Disney, at least Bob Iger, is listening to the fans and giving us somewhat what we want, where you just don't come out with the film every year, because that does kind of milk the franchise till it's dry. So I think the future is getting a little better for Star Wars, so I'm interested to see what happens. Comment your thoughts below, though. Do you believe this is really going to happen? Is he just saying it? Are you excited? Are you not? Just tell me your thoughts. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all next time. May the Force be with you always.